Thank you for taking the time to learn about establishing identity and how this fits into Chickering's model. This is Vector 5, and we'll be presenting on behalf of Dustin, Suzy, myself, Dan, and Lisa. When we talk about identity, we're talking about a dynamic fitting together of parts of the personality with the realities of the social world so that the person has a sense of internal coherence and meaningful relatedness to their real world. This includes self-esteem. Self-esteem is the overall sense of satisfaction with themselves based on how the real self stacks up with the ideal self. An attitude of approval or disapproval, and indicates how much people judge themselves to be capable. This is a valued outcome of one's personal identity. The ego is regarded more as a process than a thing, the part of the personality that helps one deal with reality. It keeps us from acting on every urge that we have, and it represents the organized part of one's personality structure that separates out what is real. It helps us organize our thoughts and make sense out of them, and maintains balance between competing forces in areas like moral judgment, personal behaviors, social norms, and personal values. There are multiple theories related to identity formation. Specifically, we look at Chickering and Reisser. These four theories are discussed: psychological, cognitive, typology, and person-environment interaction. Psychological theories include that this is development as a series of tasks or steps. Included would be such as Erikson, Chickering, and Jonelson. When we look at cognitive, we're talking about changes in thinking and evolving frames of reference that structure values, beliefs, and assumptions. In our person environment, we're focusing on how the environment influences behavior through interactions with characteristics of the individual, researched heavily by Banning and Holland. Typology, we look for distinctive but stable differences in learning style, personality type, temperament, and socioeconomic background, specifically referring to work done by Cross, Kolb, and Myers-Briggs typology assessment. Chickering indicates the establishment of identity does not exist independent of the preceding four vectors. These four vectors are critical in establishing identity: developing competence, managing emotions, and moving through autonomy towards interdependence, developing mature interpersonal relationships. Students might take advantage of fitness centers, health classes, etc. They might overeat or get little sleep due to stress and class schedules. However, comfort with body and appearance can be directly related to self-esteem. College provides an incentive to experiment, a host of new people for comparison, and a supportive environment for improving health and appearance. Classes taken during college can help students break down traditional stereotypes of gender roles and those of sexual orientation. Essentially, preconceived notions can be dissolved with first-hand experience, and education disprove many of these notions. Many of these notions or preconceived notions can be reinforced. Non-traditional sexual orientation can also be supported, or at least explored, in a college setting at a more tolerable level, with the presence of GLBT student clubs and/or other avenues of support. Especially with minorities, this aspect involves finding and becoming comfortable with one's heritage, culture, etc., despite it not being the dominant culture. This will include conforming to the values of the dominant culture system, confusion and conflict regarding the system, rejection of the system, and acceptance of their own group's cultural system, and questioning the values of both the minority and majority cultures. Therefore, developing a culture that includes aspects from both. College allows students to carry out the role of student, leader, participant, or observer in many ways. The different experiences during college help set the stage for future growth. The example used in the textbook includes a college professor who bought a house because his wife wanted one, but he preferred to be unsettled and play more. After a divorce, he decided he would like a house because of the stability and grounding it would provide him. We define who we are in part by discovering who we respect, how they feel about us, and how to deal with reactions that do not confirm our self-image. With this feedback, we can choose to accept or ignore it and move to a more compatible environment. Studies show that students tend to develop a more positive sense of their academic and social competence, but also develop a strong sense of self-worth based not on comparisons with other students, but on personal standards. Movement in this vector is marked by greater self-confidence, faith in one's abilities, feeling useful to others, and knowing that one has valuable qualities and is basically a good person. The text states that a student's ability and integration changed most dramatically between the first and second semesters, likely because of the culture shock experienced, and also in the seventh semester when starting to think about the transition away from college to the world. However, there was a gradual progression throughout all of higher education. Those who had a sense of stability and integration in the study had sorted out what was important to them and were aware of their own strengths and weaknesses. In considering identity, we wanted to use the example cited in the text of the house. The first thing that we start with is the foundation. This is one's accumulated experiences, the basis upon which the rest of their identity will evolve. The house is located in a neighborhood that is representative of one's ethnic and socioeconomic background. Within this house, there are numerous rooms. These rooms each serve a different purpose for the various facets of one's identity. Specifically, these elements tend to include belief systems, sexual identity, values, levels of achievement, and feelings about the self and others, to name just a few. The basement is viewed as a place where unconscious parts of the self are stored, and as one's identity continues to evolve, exploration of these qualities. The attic is where principles like intuition, personal ethos exist. And then there is the second floor. This space is where more maturing qualities emerge. It is where calmness, detachment, self-acceptance, and acceptance of others evolve. Also, this floor will be the location of a complete data processing center where information from throughout the house is processed. All of this is overseen by the executive. The executive ego's job is to screen, test, and synthesize the incoming data from throughout the house. The impulses, impressions, emotions, and needs. The ego attempts to maintain a coherent sense of self and influence the individual's view of the world. In time, the individual will realize that they own this house, and they are aware of what is in every room and have accepted it as a reflection of themselves.
I picked my major because it was something I actually enjoyed doing. Of course, my dad was in the same field, so I had that as an influence. So that kind of helped me decide, like, yeah, that's what I think I want to do. It's a terrible new thing to go from a small city to a big one. Driving is different, people are different. Really, it's a huge change. Doing this just to get through it. I knew that was what I wanted to do, so perseverance. The only fear is not being able to find a job, but I think I've made the right choice, and I'm pretty confident in the education I've received, so I'm ready. Many of my friends have switched majors over and over again or dropped out of school, so yeah. A lot of these individuals, they changed because of the school. It wasn't a matter of dislike or anything like that. It was a matter of counseling and encouragement in a different direction. The ones that I've retained touch with have pursued their passions. I can't say that they've been successful in their chosen fields yet.
As you've heard from this student and throughout our presentation, the various stages of identity development are very real, and they interface with the other pieces of Chickering's model. Each of the vectors come together to help us better serve the students in our communities. We look forward to engaging in conversation with our classmates, and if you have questions specifically about identity development, please ask. We look forward to the conversation. Thanks for your time.